Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we are showcasing the very exciting and overfunding Gigable campaign. More about them in a second. But first of all, I just wanted to talk about the three companies who've raised investment with us in the past. All three have recently raised follow-on funding. Firstly, Willola raised with us in 2019. They recently took on an additional €1 million in funding from a Dublin-based VC. The Spark investors now have a 650% rise in the value of their investment, which is very encouraging, of course. Secondly, Halo SOS first raised with us in 2020. They recently took on additional investment, giving Spark investors a 320% increase in the value of their investment. And lastly, Moby raised funds with us back in 2020 also. Their recent fundraising rounds have given the Spark investors a 780% raise in their value in the investment that they put into the businesses. So I think you'll all agree that these are fantastic results for the businesses and, of course, for the investors who invested in those. And there are a number of other Spark alumni that are also on the cusp of getting further investment as well. And we'll be shouting about the news about that very shortly too. And hopefully they'll be equally as encouraging as the investments that we've had with Moby, Willola, and Halo SOS. We also have a solid pipeline of new companies coming onto the platform in the coming days and weeks. We have Pilot Path coming on very shortly. So has Binary Labs, sorry, I beg your pardon, and also Costran, are all about to launch in the coming days. So please keep a weather eye out for those who will be coming on soon. But really on to today's business, and that is all about Gigable. A quick introduction to Gigable. Gigable is a decentralized digital platform which connects short-term contract workers in the gig economy directly with the businesses looking to staff specific shifts. Gigable is already generating revenues and has already turned over €1 million in the time that it's been in existence since 2020. It's had more than 100,000 transactions and executed more than €9 million worth of business. It's a proprietary platform that the team have built. There are over 47,000 freelancers that have joined onto the platform, and also over 1,500 businesses have also signed up onto the platform. There are serious backers that have put money into the business, from tech entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and some big tech investors as well. It's already reached and surpassed the 800,000 target on the Spark platform and is now overfunding. The valuation is €7.5 million. I'd now like to introduce you to John. John, you're very welcome. Good to see you. So John,
Thanks, Chris.
John is the founder and CEO of Gigable. John has a BSc in finance degree from UCC and has worked as an equity analyst in Goodbody Stockbrokers. John has also served as an officer in the Irish Army and retired as an award-winning captain in 2016 when he went to the Smurfit Graduate Business School to complete an MBA. John worked with another successful Dublin startup for 18 months before starting Gigable. John, great to see you, and thanks very much for your time today, and look forward to seeing your presentation. So perhaps if you can share your screen, we can get straight into it, and you can give your presentation if you would, please.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the introduction.
No worries. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Yep. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go into presentation mode and then you can get cracking. Perfect.
Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks to everybody who's taken the time out of their day to come to the webinar today. Chris has already given you the introduction about me, but as I said, my name is John Ryan. I'm the founder and the CEO of Gigable.com. Gigable is an Irish Dublin headquartered startup. Started myself back in 2018. We've been on an amazing journey for the last 4 years in terms of growing the team with some excellent people supporting this mission, having some fantastic investors such as Enterprise Ireland, who backed us twice on HPSU, which is quite unusual. They generally do one HPSU investment. They've actually done 2 into Gigable. We also have Delta Partners and a number of the most well-known tech angel investors in Ireland who provide a kind of a wealth of investor backing to the business as well. So I'm here to talk to you today about, for those of you who are not fully au fait with Gigable, to give you the rundown of the platform, to take some of your questions during the Q&A, and really just explain to you why I believe very, very strongly in the mission and the values of what Gigable are doing, The gig economy, as many of you may know, is it's huge already and growing. For example, there's estimated up to 7 million people in the UK alone working in the gig economy, and by 2025, it's estimated that 50% of the global workforce will be working in the gig economy. So it's not just a flash in the pan. It's become popular and well known due to companies like Uber and others over the last decade or so. But it's here to stay. And a large part of the reason, and I often get this question, that it is here to stay, is that workers want it. The flexibility is not, just a cliched term. It really is fundamental to lifestyle choices, to work choices, and particularly for younger workers who want to go it alone or do their own thing. They need an income to support that, be it in their studies, some kind of a side hustle business, or even, in another career, and they want to earn an extra income on the side to help them start something new. That's the kind of nature of the youth of today. Okay. So I'm not that young anymore, unfortunately, but would say the generation below mine, I'm a millennial, Generation Zers of this world. It's all about the gig economy, flexibility, and really being your own person and having that kind of level of autonomy, which is crucial and fundamental to what Gigable was always about. It was about empowering freelance gig workers. And surprisingly, in the world of today, in the gig economy, that's actually not the priority of most gig companies out there. And the vast majority of gig workers and gig work that happens in the economy is controlled by a few big players. Okay. And that's the primary problem that we solve on a kind of a high level basis, is that essentially the gig economy needs a reboot. Okay. The majority of gig work is controlled by a few big companies. Freelance gig workers themselves have very little to no genuine autonomy. They're not really working for themselves. They have no identity. They're paid in most cases very poorly, below the minimum wage in many cases, and they get no benefits or security. With Gigable, as a freelance gig worker, you get to see the business and the profile of the business and its rating before you work with them. We have defined shifts only on our platform. We don't allow on-demand, so piece rate work. So it's only shift labor. So you get to see that you might work a Friday night in a local restaurant for 5 hours and you're going to be paid 12 euros an hour and €1 per delivery if it was a delivery gig, for example. You get to see all that kind of transparent information with us, and also earn benefits like digital GP, mental health services, deals and discounts, fuel cards, time off work insurance if you get sick or injured, and a whole suite of market-leading benefits that Gigable were the first to bring to the market in Ireland, and one of the first in the UK as well, our other market. And actually, surprisingly, is quite unique in the space. And generally, the gig economy hasn't been given a good deal over the last decade, and we're here to solve that. Ultimately, what are we? Essentially, we are the gig economy as a service. As Chris rightly said in the introduction, we're a decentralized marketplace that connects gig workers and businesses directly together for shifts. Okay, it's a bit of a mouthful. Best way to look at it is take an example. If you're a restaurant owner and you want to take control of your own delivery operation, have your own delivery drivers, and stop paying exorbitant fees to aggregator companies, like, for example, the average is about 40% of your basket altogether, and deliver your own food, control your own quality and your own cost to your customer, you can come to Gigable to get a delivery driver and set your own rates of pay, set the details of your shift when you need somebody, pick your own driver, build your own teams, and essentially take back control of your costs, take back control of your restaurant in this example, and really just take back control of your customer's experience as well, which is crucial. And a big part of why our customer experience is so good, and that's something I'm probably proudest of all that we've done over the last 4 years since I started this business, is that our workers, the hypothesis of our workers being empowered, leading to a better customer experience and leading to a better merchant experience and leading to just a generally overall a more functional as opposed to dysfunctional gig economy, has proven true time and again. Our workers are self-motivated. They have their own identity and profile that they're looking after. They choose their own shifts. They see their pay in advance. They get excellent health and work insurance and benefits. And they're just generally in this with legitimate interest to do a good job. Whereas in the other centralized aggregator models, they're just checking in and out and hoping to get an order here and there. And the whole dynamic is not there that exists in us, where there's a reciprocal relationship built on trust. That's not there. It is with us, and that's a crucial differentiator. As I said already, businesses can take control of their brand as well by choosing their own local rated gig workers for a fraction of the cost they would pay to big companies. In terms of growth, so we started this business 4 years ago. We've had great backers in that time. I've built a fantastic team of people that I know and trust and are totally bought into our mission and our values, and we are a values-led organization. But ultimately, what we are is a marketplace And how we deliver that marketplace is through our products, which essentially are the platform product that we have, which are both on web app and also on a mobile app. So we have a web and a mobile app for the business user, and we also have a mobile app that's purely dedicated to the freelancer and has everything they need to manage, administer, choose gigs, be tracked during a gig in terms of their time, their live location, request payment, receive payment, have all their invoices and everything they need in one area. And also on the business side, it's essentially an end-to-end flexible staffing solution. Yes, built very, very specifically during the COVID period with delivery in mind. But since day one, we've had multiple job types that could be posted to the platform. Of course, during lockdowns, these weren't as relevant. But things like driver tracking systems that we've built are now extraordinarily useful and relevant in another sector which we're serving quite a lot, which is security and events. Okay, so if you're running a large security operation or you have an event, you've got 200 stewards, you want to know where all your stewards are in real time, which you can get through Gigable. You want to be able to replay people's shifts to see where somebody was when an incident might have occurred. So if, for example, John was on the east corner of the event site when somebody has reported falling down and getting injured or something like that, you can look at all that data, which is obviously relevant to delivery, but through our platform for this other sector. And there's countless other use cases where this might be applied. For example, in construction, which is another sector we're looking at, among many others, where location and time tracking is relevant, particularly in the blue collar sector of the economy, where there's just a massive deficit of workers. And it's actually not a deficit of workers, but a deficit of willing workers to take workers that are willing to take full-time or part-time jobs. As I said at the start of the presentation, workers in that space want ultimate flexibility. And in a lot of cases, particularly for the younger workers, it's essentially a side hustle. But we're very, very proud of the fact that we've built this incredible network on top of this end-to-end product, which has been every step of the way built on top of customer feedback, a very healthy customer feedback loop with both our merchants and our freelancers. And if you go onto Trustpilot today, I checked it just before this call, our rating is 4.1 stars. And we just got a fantastic review from a new restaurant that came on with us in Dublin that became aware of us recently, have signed up for delivery and are delighted to be using us. So extremely proud of the product and the network that we've built. And none of that could have been possible without an extremely strong team of both developers, product, sales, and marketing. And I'm very excited now that this team can really execute on growth and revenue growth going forward, which is our key objective from here on out. In terms of the market opportunity, there's actually little to no other market opportunity other than AI, if you believe all the hype. But a lot of the AI, we're at the start of the hype cycle there. So AI is going to be huge. But I think in terms of a real tangible piece of the economy where there is outpacing growth consistently, you have to look at the gig economy and where blue collar workers are required. So shortages of blue collar workers, and that's across almost every industry you can think of. So the market opportunity is there, massive tailwinds for us to capture. And now that we're out of that kind of COVID lockdown era since last year, we've restarted to bring in other types of work and are really starting to build up some good conversations, partnerships, and growth avenues essentially for us in new sectors as we continue to grow the business. So our model and our sales, apologies if my picture is capturing things here. So our model is essentially a transaction fee model. We do have a subscription which we introduced at the start of this year as well, which ranges from 50 to 200 euros or pounds, depending on the level of service and platform features that you need. But generally speaking, our transaction fee is a 10% fee to the merchant. So let's say your payment to the gig worker is 100 euros for a shift, for argument's sake. You would pay 110, and 10 euros of that is essentially the transaction fee to the Gigable platform. And a 5% deduction would occur from that 100 euros that would be payable to the freelancer, which essentially means they would receive 95 of that 100. And that's ultimately the bulk of what our business model is based on. As Chris has said, we've had 100,000 plus gigs paid in the platform since 2020. We processed over 9 million in transactions. It's actually a bit more than that now. And in that period, cumulative revenue of over 1.1 million euro has been generated. And we're focused really strategically right now on maximizing revenue and GTV. The platform and the product, as I said, has been built very carefully over the last few years. It's in a fantastic place. Of course, there's always new refinements and new things we can build onto the platform to satisfy new customers or onboard a new type of worker into the platform and verify their security clearance or something like that, depending on the sector we're addressing. But really, these are minor adjustments to leverage the platform further. So we're in a good place now to really just focus on sales and marketing as we move forward. As I mentioned, we've already served multiple industries. Our core customers are restaurant owners and delivery drivers. That's probably about 50% of what we do on a revenue basis during the busy kind of seasonal summer, where we have a lot of events and other security types of work that come through. But I do feel that on an ongoing basis, delivery will become probably a little bit less than 50%, and other sectors such as cleaning, events, security, and even in the future, construction conversations will probably start to materialize for us into meaningful revenue. And because those job types are longer, they'd be longer shifts, an average delivery shift's about 5.5 hours, whereas obviously a security shift could be 8 hours, or it might be even a week. Some of the cleaning gigs that come on our platform are a week long. So they're much longer, higher rates of pay, and obviously they earn us a higher transaction fee on that basis. So I think on a revenue basis, delivery will probably become, it's still going to be foundational to what we do, but it'll probably become even below that 50% threshold in terms of revenue as we grow the platform and start to leverage new sectors. So progress. We're focused on maximizing revenue growth, as I've just said. We're forecasting a 33% revenue growth in 2023, followed by 150% in 2024, driven by greater UK penetration. Our intended next market is a city in North America, which we intend to launch in 2024 as well, and we're conducting research on that right now. Our user growth is strong, so it says 47,000 gig workers up there, and a lot of that is driven organically. We actually don't have any freelancer acquisition advertisements running right now, and we haven't for a couple of months because we just don't need to. Word of mouth is strong enough, you know, in particularly our core markets in Ireland, also in parts of London and around London as well. People know who we are. They've used us, they like us, they recommend us, and they sign up on the freelancer side. On the business side then as well, we've just kicked in terms of our acquisition there. We have business development, of course, which is crucial to how we grow our merchant side of the marketplace. But also we've been doing paid advertisements and launching in July a new awareness campaign across Ireland on social, Ireland and London on social, which essentially will help build up awareness in those other types of sectors that aren't used to using us or thinking that they have an option through the gig economy. So we expect those user numbers to grow quite a lot over the next 6 months, and with them the volume of gigs and also the amount of revenue that we make. So our community love the platform. As I mentioned, our App Store, Play Store, and Trustpilot ratings are all consistently above 4, which is outstanding for our marketplace. If anybody else ever looked at marketplace ratings, even marketplaces that you love, because you don't completely control the end-to-end experience as the marketplace, like you are essentially a middleman, it is hard to get a good rating. So we're extremely proud of our 4.1 rating on Trustpilot. And as marketplaces go, as I said, that's an outstanding result. So we're going to keep on top of that. And it is one of the company's primary objectives and key results, OKRs, is to maintain an above 4-star Trustpilot rating. So just some summary reasons to invest. I don't want to go on too long because I'm sure you've got plenty of questions. We have a highly qualified and highly experienced management team, and I would say a highly bought in, motivated and belief-filled management team. We've got high caliber customers like Press Up Group, Eddie Rockets, Apache, and Subway branches in the UK. We've got crucially, major backers like Delta Partners, Successful Angels in Ireland. HVSU have backed us 2 times, as I mentioned, or Enterprise Ireland have backed us 2 times in the HVSU program, which is quite unusual. We're one of very few companies that actually get that. We've built all of our own tech in-house, so we haven't outsourced it. It's all belonging to us. It's our platform. We built it from scratch with thousands of hours of customer feedback and thousands of hours of development. So there's something intrinsically valuable here without anything else. But sitting on top of that, as I mentioned before, the real value of what we have is this network that actually value what we do for them. Performance to date, as I said, we've achieved over 1.1 million of revenues, and as it says there, it's actually 48,500 users at this stage, and that's actually probably grown even a bit more since I updated that slide, have come into the platform, and a large amount of those have come in organically on the freelancer side particularly. So we're extremely excited. The market size gives us great confidence. What we're doing in the UK, what we've learned in terms of how we acquire customers, our processes, our systems, our platform are all in really good shape, and really we're just getting into gear to have a stellar second half of this year. And I hope that many of you join us on that journey, and that I can continue to keep you up to date with the things we're doing. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Chris, I want to pass it back to you.
Absolutely, John. Thank you very much indeed. It's very comprehensive, and hopefully that's explained it to our attendees today. But anyway, we've got a number of questions in, so we'll just get cracking with those. First question, what is your best marketing channel?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So typically we use Facebook and Instagram for paid advertising, and we've used that for both B2B, so the merchant or business acquisition, and we've also used it for the freelancer audience. We've also used YouTube and Google to bid search on the freelancer side and the B2B. Where we've landed now in terms of our best channels for B2B, we like LinkedIn, and we like building awareness through LinkedIn. So even the awareness through the Spark platform, that's been created has actually led to us acquiring merchants. Okay, so businesses generally live on LinkedIn. You will find them on Facebook, and we have found, we ran a small campaign for 3 months in the UK where we acquired about 130 merchant leads, qualified leads through Facebook in the course of 3 months, which was really good. But the problem with Facebook, as many as you know, is that you can burn out audiences in small areas pretty quickly. Okay, so you just need to be conscious of that, and we are conscious of that, and that's why we're upgrading our awareness side of the marketing versus the paid advertising going forward, which is obviously more cost efficient as well. On the freelancer side, Facebook and Instagram are still king, but as I said, we don't really have an issue with acquiring freelancers unless we're going into a whole new area. So if we were launching in a new city that we've never done anything, like Glasgow or something like that, we would need to run a campaign there. And generally we put about €1,000 buying a campaign over 3 or 4 weeks. And that will get us the amount of users we need. Generally our cost of acquisition is as low as €1 or even less on the freelancer side, because it does have its own momentum after you kick it into gear in an area, because they do talk. It's a community. It's a disparate community. We're trying to capture that community and build a community within the platform. So generally on the freelancer side, it's a lot easier to build those organic networks.
Great. Fergal, you're on mute.
Apologies for that. Hi, John. Just a question here on the benefits for employees, or the gig workers. Could you just maybe give a bit more detail on that and what services, particularly around the health benefits as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We were the first company to partner with a company called Collective Benefits in Ireland, and also one of the first in the UK to essentially launch packages of benefits to freelancers. And how that essentially works on our platform is if you do 5+ gigs in a month, you get access to a seat, which gives you access to benefits essentially. So we onboard you into their insurance program, and what's included in that is digital GP, mental health services, time off work insurance if you get sick or injured. You get deals and discounts at retailers, a fuel card. There's some compassionate leave benefits in there as well. If a loved one dies or a family member dies, if you have a new addition to the family, if you or your wife has a child and you want to basically take some time off, there's benefits for that as well. So there's a whole suite of, frankly, there are better benefits in there than you would get working in most employed jobs, particularly in low-skilled labor. So it really is, I think they've hit the nail on the head there in Collective Benefits, and we're very happy to have been one of the first companies to actually provide that for our gig workers.
Great.
Excellent. Can you just talk to us about the payment mechanism to the actual employee and how that works, and what kind of, are there any benefits in that, and how it actually transpires from the, does it come through the channel, or does it come through the actual, from the restaurateur or the organizer of the security?
Yeah, absolutely. It's paid directly. So it's paid from the business user on our platform directly to the freelance gig worker through our platform. So we provide multiple ways or a means for that to happen. One is Stripe, obviously with credit cards, which everybody knows. We were the first company to build on Revolut's business API, a peer-to-peer business payment system, which is faster than card payments, obviously is quite good. We have a batch payment system on Revolut as well, if you're paying a lot of gigs at once, where you can essentially make one lodgement to a clearing account and pay off your 100 freelancers at one go. And we're currently integrating with the platform called TrueLayer for open banking payments, which is basically instantaneous payments across all banks that are on open banking, which is basically all of them at this stage. But ultimately, the key thing there is that it's a direct payment from business to freelancer. And as part of that transaction, we get our 15% transaction fee. So we're not a staffing agency. We are a marketplace. We don't pay the gig workers minimum wage and then bill the client double the minimum wage per hour or whatever way they operate. That's not our model. Our model is to connect them up directly. And that one of the key reasons we do that is obviously we don't want to hold the risk of paying all the workers as well and billing afterwards from a business perspective, business sense, but also the transparency piece. What they offer, the freelancer sees, right? So it's not like, we're billing them 20 and paying those guys 10. It's totally different kind of model.
Very good. Okay, good. Thanks.
Good. Just a question here about the UK. What's the plan to increase UK penetration, and what will the costs be associated?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I guess we do have two key people in place in the UK. So on our business development and sales side, essentially. But essentially with marketplaces, particularly ours, it's a supply and demand conundrum, essentially. So you want to have supply of workers, but you also want to have the demand there in the platform from businesses to make it interesting and attractive to those workers. And generally what we do is we'll tee up new areas, and this is how we're doing it in the UK right now. So for example, an area we're looking at is Bath, another area with a new partner company in the UK called Yoello is Bristol. So basically going into Bristol, building up a merchant base of about 10 merchants, signing them up, getting the demand on the platform, and then following suit with the launch date of about 2 weeks after that with a freelancer campaign, essentially to build up that network and get those gigs into gear, essentially. So that's ultimately how our process kind of works on the growth and acquisition side for the UK. In terms of the cost of acquisition on the business side, depends on when we're launching an area, to be honest with you. We do like to have a 5 or 6 times LTV ratio to CAC ratio, so our lifetime value over the course of a year of a merchant to essentially the cost it takes to acquire them. One of the big reasons we're going into growing our awareness in the UK, particularly through organic and through social content, is it helps you to acquire merchants basically for free. Okay, there's no BD cost required in it. You get merchants on board in an area, you use their networks on social to build more awareness. They tell their other restaurant friends about it, they see something on their social channel, and you essentially acquire for free. We have tightened up our platform and made it essentially that we're very confident in all the new merchants that come on, that they go on to pay a gig straight away when they come on, that they're not just coming in to kick tires or whatever. So we've gotten that up to about 80% of new merchants acquired go on to pay a gig in their first month. And that's also had knock-on effects in terms of our retention being over 90% for new merchants that we're acquired to. So we do have a gated community on the merchant side and on the freelancer side too. But that gating has allowed us to kind of build a good model of CAC to LTV for the long term, but also to allow us to essentially build an engine that we can replicate in new markets. And that's the key thing.
Excellent. And Subway was one of your first big logos, I think, in the UK, wasn't it, John?
That's right. Yeah. We started rolling out a number of branches with Subway in the UK, and we've talked to a chain of ice cream stores in London actually at the moment as well, which is quite exciting. So looking forward to launching with them soon.
Fantastic.
Is this the last time you expect to raise funds, or will you raise funds again?
My goal with Gigable from day one is to make it as huge as possible. I enjoy the challenge of growing the business. I've enjoyed the challenge of trying to fix this huge industry, which is the gig economy, which as I said is messy and disparate and doesn't work for any stakeholders really. We've built something unique and special, and I want to grow it as big as possible. So that means we do need to raise more funding. We will be going for Series A early next year, and that means that there will be good capital appreciation on the shares that people do receive as part of their investment as well, because further funding, further growth will obviously increase the value of the company overall.
Excellent. And just there's a question here, sorry, just came in. What type of company would likely acquire you guys?
That's a great question. I guess we do. If you were to pick somebody out, you would have to say somebody who's in the staffing and recruiting space. There are huge companies in staffing and recruiting, if you were to talk about other middlemen type companies, but equally companies that are in the spaces that we serve. Let's say if it was facilities management or cleaning or construction, if we get into construction in the near future, which we're, as I said, we're looking closely at, it's quite possible that a player in that space would also look at us as an attractive target to acquire as well, because of the wide vertical application or the different types of business cases that we have and the unique way that we're approaching those sectors. So it's hard for me to say definitively who it could be, because we do have a fantastic tech stack there as well. So somebody could equally try to acquire us purely for our tech stack. But it would be speculation at this point to say, but I'm sure there's plenty of them out there in the future that would be interested in us.
Can you please give us more detail about the background of your private and angel investors that you mentioned on the Spark site? Yeah,
absolutely. So Delta Partners are the venture capital fund. So they're based out of Dublin, headquartered here. They're I think they're the oldest or the longest standing VC in Dublin. So they're our main VC backer. Then there's obviously Enterprise Ireland, which are the second biggest investor in the world. They make a huge amount of investments, very rigorous program due diligence that we've gone through a number of times with them. In terms of the angel investors, without me going into names or whatever, so some of them have worked in the likes of LinkedIn and Google at the most senior levels that there are. Others are founders themselves that have gone on to build businesses that they've sold for 100 million plus as well. A number of them have done that. And essentially all of them have their own value to bring in terms of a network, and also, what it means to actually run a tech startup, which in its own right is a very kind of unique and special thing to do.
Excellent. And here's actually a nice question to kind of lead on from that. what plans for additional funding beyond the original target? So there's 1,150,000 already there. What's the kind of the top end of that, John?
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good question. We'll see where we get to this week. I'm hoping that there is some interest from the Spark investor community here, and we'll see where we shake out on that, and we'll make a call on it by the end of this week. So just going to see where we're at.
Excellent.
Good. What is to stop a merchant dealing directly with the gig workers that you've acquired?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually something we kind of were concerned about a lot at the start when we built this business. But to be frank with you, 9 times out of 10, first of all, the gig worker doesn't want to take a job with the business. And equally, on the other side of that, the business is not going to be able to coax the gig worker to do 5 nights a week with them or forever or whatever, right? So if they just did the one night, they want to pay them 50 quid. We have systems in the platform to identify that. But in most cases, the businesses, they don't really get much benefit from that. Essentially, they're doing a lot of, cash work. It's kind of out of the till and into the pocket of the worker. And most of the merchants that use this actually want to get out of the shadow economy. I'm not saying that there isn't a shadow economy out there in the gig economy. There definitely is. But the merchants that we acquire, a big part of what they want to do, and many times the actual reverse of what that question is suggesting happens, is that the merchant, the restaurant or whoever, has a team of people that they use largely on, sometimes it's on cash basis, depending on what business it's in. They want to bring them in to clean up, get the administration sorted, have an invoice record for every gig, see clearly and have a full transaction history of all the gigs that they pay. But we do track that day to day. The benefits of actually employing a gig worker are not there because, employees PRSI is even higher than our fees, first of all, right? So that's actually going to cost you more if you're talking about employment. And if you're talking about a cash basis, it's just not really a great way to run your business longer term. And I just think most merchants couldn't be bothered with the risk of doing that because it's just, you can't do that long term.
Sure.
Excellent. And what challenges do you see in the coming couple of months to a year, John? What can you see as maybe being challenging, or what's your vision like for the next 12 months?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of opportunity in front of us in terms of sectors, right? So every sector has its own nuance. So when we decided to address the security industry, we built in checks into the platform to check your PSA license in Ireland, for example, so that there's a way to submit that. It's under the freelancer's profile as a qualification, a license that they hold, and it's there available to merchants that they work with to see it. So if we want to get into construction, for example, there's things around tax withholding and there's things around safe passes and all these kinds of things that we have to address those if we want to serve that industry correctly. So really the biggest challenge for us, what we're doing right now, actually as part of our strategic review for the next 6 months, is to really decide which sector do we want to do a great job in. Because you could try to throw your hat at a few of them and see, throw your hat in the ring for a few of them and see how they go. It's not really a great way to run a business. So we're doing that right now. And that's always going to be a difficult choice because you're going to have to weigh up the pros and the cons and the potential value of those customers. So actually making decisions is one of the hardest parts of being a founder or being a business owner generally. And it's particularly when it comes to things like where you're going to throw your weight behind in terms of trying to acquire new customers and spending your time and resource on doing that. So that's one at the moment right now.
Excellent.
You mentioned in the presentation 150% growth in 2024. What is the plan to increase that UK penetration, and what will the costs associated be like?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a large part of what we're putting this funding round behind is essentially continuing with executing the sales and marketing plan that we have in the UK, building up the awareness across London particularly, but other cities, like I've mentioned, Bath and Bristol are two that we're very interested in as well. And essentially just getting that engine of growth kicked into gear in the UK with this funding. And ultimately, because we've, improved our processes of onboarding over the last 6 months, merchants that we get stay with us, and we can actually ensure that they go on to become fully paying customers, and we get that kind of CAC to LTV multiple that we want. And ultimately, as we map out our model based on what we have today, we don't need to make any new hires or increase spending massively to achieve these goals. We essentially need to stay the course at what we're doing, introduce some of that social campaign and social or the organic marketing that I mentioned to increase the penetration in those areas. And really, we're in a good place to be able to hit our targets. The average merchant makes us about €400 per month in fees when they're fully onboarded and using us. So to get to those numbers that we're looking to get, we don't need 100,000 customers. Okay, we need a couple of hundred, and we're there, which is definitely not Everest to climb.
Very good, very good. Okay,
Yeah.
just last one, last question here, which is a double one because I'm conscious about time. Talking about the scalability of the technology, and also the one is if there's a no-show, does Gigable foot the bill for that? Or is that how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take the second part first. So we have built systems essentially in the platform that automatically refulfill gigs. We call it dynamic shift fulfillment. So business posts a gig, Chris applies, and he gets accepted when he can no longer do it. So we then send, and he tells the platform, so he puts it in his app, I can't do this anymore, and he cancels, but it's only 3 or 4 hours to the gig or something like that, which is often the case. People have to cancel the last minute because of personal reasons or whatever. That will automatically, first and foremost, the first automation we have is go to a waiting list. So if Virgil had also applied but didn't get the gig and he's still available for the gig, he will get pinged through the app and say, do you still want this? It's now available. And the first person on the waiting list to say yes will get it. Right. So it's a first come, first served basis. If there's nobody on the waiting list, the second level of automation that we've built is that it goes to the wider network around that restaurant. So basically a 15 to 20 kilometer radius around that area. Any active freelancer, any freelancer who's done a gig in the previous couple of months will get pinged on their app as well and be asked, do you want to take this gig? And we get them refulfilled. I think last month we managed to refulfill 93% of the gigs in Ireland that were cancelled last minute or within 24 hours of the actual end time. So very, very proud of the automations we built, because it is the gig economy flexibility. People do need to change their plans. They couldn't get a babysitter, their kids are sick or something like that, and they do have to cancel. So you have to roll with it, and you have to use technology to fix those problems. And the first part of your question, I think, was essentially on scalability of the technology specifically. That essentially we can turn on our app anywhere. The web app is a web app. Anybody can log in and set up an account anywhere in the world. And the mobile app, you just need to make it available on the app stores. The only barrier we need to overcome for entering a new market is essentially adapting our terms and conditions. So if we're launching in the US, depending on which state it is, you can't just launch in the US. You have to pick a state and pick a city. It's a huge place. You would need to see what the local state laws are, as well as the national laws, the federal laws. Make sure you adapt your terms for that. Obviously, the US economy is extremely gig economy friendly. It's much more prevalent there and widely accepted than it is even here, to be honest with you. So it's adjusting your terms and making sure that your users that you acquire in that new market are agreeing to those specific terms. But then essentially you can use the platform as it is today. All the payment systems we built work in the US as well. So when we built payment systems on our platform, we've always had in mind that they need to work in the US when we go over there as well. So that's crucial, that the whole platform end to end would work in a new market, in a matter of weeks if we decided to do it.
Very good, very good. Listen, we've got more questions than we have actually time for. So again, apologies if your question has not been asked, but we'll get John to do that offline and do that. But I'm just conscious about time and everybody else's lunch that we're eating into. So so listen, guys, thank you very much indeed. John, Fergal, thanks very much. Right, so we've heard from John and Gigable, and I think you'll agree that it's very worthwhile, a serious consideration for investment. So please do that. If you'd like to have a follow-on call with John, we can arrange that, absolutely, and John will be able to give you, one-to-one, face-to-face information as well if necessary. So if you'd like to avail of that, please let us know and we can do that. And also really just to watch out for the upcoming campaigns that we've got live on the site very, very soon. So Custran, Pilot Path, and Binari Labs. So please watch out for those. So John, thank you very much for your time today, and everybody else who's on the call, thank you for your time as well. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. So thanks very much, everyone. Okay.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks everybody for attending. Good to see you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.